So DeSantis steps in and decides, hey, with all the stuff that Disney is doing, let's look into this a little more. Hey, it looks like Disney has had this super advantageous deal with the state of Florida, with this Reedy Creek agreement, with everything. Let's put an end to that and make Disney just like every other company. They can't just do anything they want. And for the past year, we've heard that, well, that's not going to happen. The taxpayers are going to end up being fucked over. Disney's going to get everything they want. This isn't doing anything for them. Ha, ha, ha. And every step of the way that gets thwarted. And now here we are. And apparently the board that's been newly installed, they say, hey, Disney came in last minute, tried to make a bunch of changes, and they could have a bunch of power for the next decade or so, or even longer, till 2053 or some bullshit.
Potentially 30 years, but I'm going to tell you right now, it ain't lasting that long because this shit is not legal. And that's coming from me at the Legal Mindset. Look, here's what they tried to do. They said, okay, we lost the battle to keep our district and keep all our powers. We don't get to keep our baseball. We know we're going home. We know we're packing our bags. So in February, they said, look, here's what we're going to do. We still control this sucker until March. So what we're going to do is we're going to transfer all our power from ourselves to ourselves. And what they tried to do is send their power from their totally public and totally not completely controlled by them government entity and transfer those powers over to Disney itself and restrict and pretty much neuter the government so they can do absolutely nothing whatsoever, including ridiculous things like they can never use Mickey Mouse. They can never use, their logos, trademarks, everything else. Not that they would use them anyways. Most governments would never do that anyways, right? But putting things in there that seem like regulations that government would put on a private entity. And really the simple of this, the thing like a caveman like Ryan can understand is this. Disney tried to file some restrictive covenants just like your HOA would, just like anything else would. But they forgot one thing. Covenants are meant for private parties to bind private parties. They're not meant to regulate governments. If I said the city of Orlando, and I'm Universal, and I said they got to put a Harry Potter on the side of their fire station, they can say go pound sand. They don't have to do that, right? If Universal gifted them that and put a restriction on it, said they had to do that, they could say go pound sand. These private restrictions do not apply to governments. And I dealt with this routinely in my practice for 6 years, dealing with homeowners associations that wanted us to follow all sorts of crazy rules, right? When I represented Celebration, which is right next to Disney, they got a bunch of crazy requirements and they would always try to get the governments to follow them, whether it was Kissimmee or whoever else. And the government would say, look, we're the government, F you. We don't got to do that. That's for private citizens to follow. So the whole frame of mind here is Disney is desperately clawing to maintain that control and power, and it's just not going to work. I mean, plain and simple, this will definitely go to court, but this is not going to stand.
I've seen a lot of people try to dismiss this. I've seen a lot of people try to dismiss how he's handled Disney. Oh, it's not that, they're going to be able to do. Disney is what happens. I say this all the time. When something is dying or when something is in a desperate situation, what happens? They start showing how desperate and how dire the situation is. And that's what Disney's showing right now, is that they are very frustrated with what has happened. They deserve it for trying to get involved in policy in the state of Florida. They deserve this. You had so many special privileges all of those years, and you finally pissed off the wrong one, and now you're in this situation. So it's looking like a big win for DeSantis here.
And here's the thing is all they had to do was shut up. Like continually, all they got to do is just shut up and go away. But now this is only going to make it worse. If it wasn't worse already, it's only going to get worse for them as they fight and fight and fight. They're going to lose more and more and more power. In the long run, Disney is looking in the short run for these short run victories, but the long run, they're just kicking themselves in the foot.
What I've learned along this step is every time you see anyone in the mainstream media say, oh, Disney, they just got one over DeSantis. DeSantis gave them exactly what they wanted. Every time they say that, a day later, it's like, oh, no, actually not. Actually, this is really fucking bad for Disney and will continue to be really bad for them. And I saw the same thing going on yesterday. It's why I didn't even talk about it or make a video about it, because quite frankly, you knew that something like this was actually the reality, that, you were going to make a breakdown video on your channel and show everybody why. No, it's just more ploys from Disney and the media who's in bed with them to try desperately to make it look like it's an optical win for them.
Yeah, exactly. They're going to frame it in any way. And I saw the pixie dusters coming out of every corner of the internet trying to frame this as a W. There's a clause in here, and it's actually like just one part of a larger phrase, which is talking about how long this thing lasts. There's this weird thing in the law called the rule against perpetuities, and that's for, you know, how long things can last, essentially. Florida got rid of that. And we actually have replaced that with like a 90-year rule where we let things run out for 90 years and see how they go. But this King of England clause, like this declaration shall continue 21 years after the death of the last survival of descendants of King Charles, King of England, that's buried between a bunch of other clauses which say, hey, look, this is how long this is going to last for. So it was an attempt to say this is going to last for as long as it'll legally be allowed to last for. That's what they meant to say. They're just doing it in a funny legal way. It's good for a laugh, but in no means does that clause mean, oh my gosh, Disney won because they did something funny and they got one on DeSantis. That's not what that clause means whatsoever. That's complete pixie dust. That's absolutely snorting the pixie dust.
This is great news. This is so funny. A lot of people that have basically jumped into this situation that know nothing about the theme park itself or how it works. And so I've heard people go like, Disney just needs to move out of the state of Florida. And it's like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Do you understand that that is no chance in hell that that is possible? Disney World is twice the size of Manhattan. What you are saying is that Manhattan should just move out of New York. That's not possible.
And the thing is, every other place that they could potentially go, they're going to have to fall under the same restrictions they fall under here in Florida. This is normalcy. This is what every single other entity, every company, every business, everyone falls under. These types of governmental city restrictions.
In fact, Ryan, I'll actually say this. Florida is more friendly than almost every other state. They allow these types of special districts. They don't just say, okay, this falls under the city or the county. It actually allows for these little local governments that are kind of mini counties, mini cities. These are things that don't really exist with the same power and force and freedom that they do in Florida. If you try to do this in Pennsylvania or New York, good luck.
Welcome to equality. Oh, suddenly you don't like the word equality anymore?
Whoa. It's equity now. It's equity now.
Equity now. Yeah.
We've seen this dog and pony show before. Disney's going to come out with their people trumping it as a win, trumping it as, you know, they're going to take this in the end. They're ultimately going to be vindicated. But as you see the law play out and facts and reality play out, these things are going to end up either being overturned or they're going to back down or come to some sort of resolution on. I think, once again, the reasonable thing would be a resolution, but we've yet to see Disney be reasonable. We may see this go to the courts. We may see this brought, you know, all the way up to the Florida Supreme Court. Guarantee you that if we see it at that level, it's going to be overturned. And the Central Florida Tourism Oversight Board, which was meant to bring oversight, will eventually bring oversight to the corporate kingdom. I think it's coming whether they like it or not. They're just delaying it a little bit longer.